In the early 2000s, the UK was one of the richest countries in Europe. Poland, on the other hand, was one of the poorest, a country still recovering from decades of control under the Soviet Union. Polish workers left home and crossed the continent to clean British offices, build British homes, and care for British patients in the NHS. 20 years later, the exact opposite is happening. Poland's economy is now growing twice as fast as Britain's. Polish wages are climbing while British wages have been stagnant for over a decade. By the 2030s, the average Polish citizen is projected to be richer than the average British citizen. And it's already starting to happen. British doctors are now moving to Poland for better pay and a better life. This isn't a small statistical blip. It's one of the most shocking economic role reversals in modern European history. And the cause isn't a Polish miracle or a British accident. It's the direct consequence of a series of decisions Britain made. Decisions that handed Poland the foundation for a transformation no one expected. In this video, we'll explain how the UK helped build Poland's rise, why the rise is now permanent, and what it means for the future of both countries. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Britain was thriving. London was one of the world's leading financial centers. The country's universities were among the best in the world. The National Health Service, also known as the NHS, was a global model for public health care. British companies dominated industries from pharmaceuticals to aerospace. Britain was the fifth largest economy in the world, comfortably ahead of every Eastern European country combined. But underneath the surface, Britain was making choices that would slowly hollow out its foundation. The country transitioned aggressively from manufacturing to financial services. London boomed. The industrial north and Wales withered. Whole regions that had once produced steel, ships, and cars became regions producing not much at all. Britain stopped making things and started servicing financial flows. The country bet its entire economic future on being a global financial center. And for 2 decades, that bet paid off. Financial services generated enormous wealth. London became one of the richest cities on earth. But that wealth was concentrated in a small geographic area and a narrow set of professions. Most of the country saw its productive capacity decline. Cities in the North and Midlands that had once been thriving industrial centers became places people left rather than places people moved to. Then came the 2008 financial crisis. Britain's economy, deeply dependent on financial services, took a direct hit. Years of cost-cutting followed, public services were cut, infrastructure investment fell. Real wages for most British workers froze and have barely recovered since. By some measures, the average British worker today earns roughly the same in real terms as the average British worker did in 2008. In 2016, Britain held a referendum on leaving the European Union. Brexit passed. The country voted, in significant part, on the promise of taking back control over immigration. Critics warned this would damage the economy. Supporters argued it would strengthen Britain's position by reducing competition for British workers. Neither prediction was correct. It was something stranger and worse. Brexit triggered a massive reverse migration. The Polish population in the UK fell from over 1 million in 2017 to around 700,000 by 2023. Polish workers, who had been quietly powering British construction, hospitality, the NHS, and food distribution, started going home. The void was immediate. Britain ended up with a shortage of about 100,000 lorry drivers, 200,000 unfilled hospitality jobs. The NHS now operates with a shortfall of 124,000 positions. Public satisfaction with the NHS has dropped to 29%, the lowest level since records began. British doctors are now leaving for Australia in record numbers. Skilled professionals are departing, not arriving. The knowledge worker acquisitions that Britain spent decades benefiting from has now turned into a brain drain. The country that once attracted talent from around the world is now exporting it. By 2025, Britain found itself with stagnant wages, crumbling infrastructure, rising hostility, skilled workers leaving for better lives elsewhere, and an economy trapped in a low-growth, high-tax cycle that no government has been able to break. The country wasn't collapsing. It was just steadily losing ground every year. And every year, its gap over Poland was shrinking. The story of how Britain helped build Poland's rise starts in 2004. That year, the European Union expanded eastward. Poland and 7 other former Soviet bloc countries joined the EU. Most major European economies, France, Germany, the Netherlands, put transitional restrictions on their labor markets. They didn't want millions of Eastern Europeans showing up to work overnight. They wanted time to manage the transition. Britain made a different choice. The Labour government of Tony Blair opened the British labour market immediately. The official forecast predicted maybe 13,000 Polish workers would arrive per year. Within a few years, over 1 million Poles had moved to the UK. It became one of the largest peacetime migrations in modern European history. These weren't unskilled workers. The migrants were unusually young, unusually educated, and unusually motivated. They came with a strong work ethic shaped by decades of economic hardship under communism. They filled jobs in construction, healthcare, food distribution, and hospitality that British workers either couldn't or wouldn't take. Independent research later showed that Polish migrants were, on average, net contributors to the British economy. They paid more in taxes than they received in public services. For Britain, this looked like a free gift. The economy grew faster than it would have. Wages stayed competitive. Industries that depended on labor flexibility thrived. Polish workers paid British taxes, used British services, and quietly held up sectors that would have collapsed without them. For Poland, it initially looked like a brain drain. The country's most ambitious young people were leaving for higher wages elsewhere. The Polish government feared the country would never recover from losing a generation of skilled labor. But something unexpected happened. The Polish economy started growing, fast. EU membership brought supportive government funds. Foreign investors poured in, looking for skilled labor and lower costs than Western Europe. Poland used those advantages to build genuine manufacturing capacity, especially in automotive, electronics, and chemicals. Then, the 2008 global financial crisis hit. Britain went into recession and cost-cutting. Poland's banking sector, old-fashioned, less connected to global financial markets, less exposed to toxic American mortgage products, was largely insulated from the worst of the damage. Poland became the only major European economy to avoid recession in 2008. While Britain was cutting public spending and watching wages stagnate, Poland kept growing. By the mid-2010s, Polish wages and living standards were rising rapidly. The gap between life in Britain and life in Poland was closing. Some Poles started moving home, not because they failed in the UK, but because Poland was now competitive. Then came Brexit. The referendum in 2016 made the Polish community in Britain feel unwelcome. Some experienced open hostility. The settlement scheme created bureaucratic uncertainty. Poland's ambassador in London wrote a public letter urging his compatriots to seriously consider returning home. Hundreds of thousands did. And here's the part that mattered most. The Poles who returned weren't the same workers who had left. They came back with British qualifications, British work experience, British savings, and British professional networks. They built businesses, they invested capital, they trained other workers, they brought back a generation's worth of skills that Poland had never had access to before. The UK had effectively spent 2 decades training and enriching Poland's most valuable workforce, and then handed them back to Poland just as Poland was ready to receive them. If you're learning something new, consider subscribing. Most of what we cover here never makes the mainstream news, but it probably should. The numbers Poland has produced over the past 30 years are extraordinary by any historical standard. The country's economy has grown 10 times bigger since the end of communism, faster than any other major European country during that period. Since 2004, when Poland joined the EU, the economy has grown roughly twice as fast as Britain's. Poland's GDP at purchasing power parity has climbed from 39% of the EU average in 1990 to roughly 80% today. The country has graduated from being a poor post-Soviet state to being a middle-income European economy on track to match the wealth of Spain and Italy within a decade. Polish workers are now among the most productive in Europe. The country outperforms France, Germany, and the United States in measured productivity per hour worked. Polish unemployment dropped to 2.7%, one of the tightest labor markets on the continent. Wages have been rising consistently for years, and the cost of living, while no longer cheap, still allows young Polish workers to afford things their British counterparts can't, like buying a home before their 40s. Manufacturing is the engine. Poland makes things: cars, electronics, machinery, chemicals. The country has become a major manufacturing hub for German automotive companies. Polish workers now build BMWs, Mercedes parts, and Volkswagen components. The country is the largest battery producer in Europe. As German manufacturing faces its own slowdown, Poland is increasingly absorbing the work. Cities have transformed. Warsaw's skyline is now denser than London's in some districts. Krakow has become a major tech hub, hosting offices for companies including Google, Cisco, and Motorola. Wrocław attracts foreign investment in advanced manufacturing. Gdansk has rebuilt itself as a logistics and shipping center on the Baltic. A generation ago, these cities were industrial relics. Today, they are some of the fastest growing urban economies in Europe. And here is the part that ties everything together. Skilled British workers are now moving to Poland, not in huge numbers yet, but the direction has clearly reversed. British doctors and nurses, frustrated by NHS conditions and frozen wages, are taking positions in Polish hospitals. British engineers are working in Polish automotive factories. The migration that ran for 2 decades in one direction has started running the other way. The pattern is genuinely unprecedented. Most former Eastern Bloc countries are still working through their post-communist transition. Poland has effectively completed it. The country isn't catching up to Western Europe anymore. It's one of Western Europe's strongest engines. The UK-Poland reversal is the loudest current example of a broader pattern playing out around the world. Wealthy economies that built their success on financial services, debt, and decades of comfortable assumptions are losing ground to economies that focused on manufacturing, productivity, and disciplined growth. The same dynamic is showing up elsewhere. The Czech Republic, Hungary, and Slovakia are following Poland's path on a smaller scale. Vietnam is doing it in Asia, taking manufacturing from China. Mexico is doing it in North America, taking work from both China and increasingly from the US. Each of these countries has built genuine advantages: skilled workforces, lower costs, manufacturing focus, trade bloc access, that the wealthier countries above them have steadily eroded. But Poland also faces its own future challenges. 40% of Polish industry is foreign-owned, especially in automotive. The country lacks major homegrown global brands. As Polish wages rise, the cost advantage that attracted foreign capital will erode. This is what economists call the middle-income trap, the point at which a developing economy must transition from low-cost manufacturing to higher-value innovation. Many countries fail this transition. But for now, Poland's trajectory is one of the most successful in modern European history. The UK-Poland role reversal that everyone assumed was impossible 30 years ago is no longer hypothetical. It's measurable, accelerating, and visible in the everyday choices millions of workers are making. 30 years ago, a Polish citizen looked at Britain and saw a future that seemed impossibly out of reach. Today, a young British professional looks at Warsaw and sees something they can't get in London: affordable housing, a growing economy, and a labor market that values their skills. The world doesn't reward complacency. Britain didn't lose to Poland because Poland did something extraordinary. Britain lost because it stopped doing the things that made it strong. Poland's rise is what happens when one country builds while another stands still. To see how Britain got here, click on the video on the screen.